scoot around the turn. Pershing is eighth and trotting fast and coming on. Around to the 3/4-mile mark. Paradise Pride has the lead. This Paradise Pride is leading the way. Down on the inside, very side. Pershing is coming on now as they turn for home. Steve Lobell on the outside. Pershing holding his cars on the outside with Steve Lobell. Paradise Pride down on the inside. Daring Pride between.
Hi, I'm Don Evans. Up in the corner here. I'm the executive editor of Hoofbeats magazine. Write a column for it, too. Now, Hoofbeats is a monthly publication, and we shy away from trying to cover individual colts as the season rolls by. Good thing, too, if most seasons are like the wild thing the sport served up in 1976. Can you imagine a magazine trying to cover the stars of the turbulent 3-year-old trotting ranks in '76? Would have turned an editor's hair gray, or grayer in this editor's case. In June, of course, we'd have had Nebely Thunder on our cover. Thunder was 1975's 2-year-old trotter of the year, won 18 out of 21, started the '76 campaign with a noise reminiscent of his name, and was everybody's early choice to capture the Hambletonian. By late June, however, Nebely Thunder was taking it gently on the chin, and the new star in the trotting constellation was Steve Lobell. His triumphs in the Courier and Ives and the Matron and Reynolds Stakes would doubtless have made him our cover boy for the Hoofbeats edition rolling off the presses on July 1st. Steve Lobell's early season spurt was to be brief too, and our hypothetical Hoofbeats, matching the fickleness of the times, might well have been featuring a new tough kid on the block by August. Soothsayer was his name, and winning the Dexter Cup and other rich events was his game. Would Soothsayer's name remain up in lights, command newspaper headlines when the balmy breezes of July turned into the siroccos of deep summer at places like Syracuse and Indianapolis? It would not, and our magazine, to be fair and accurate, would have to paint a pair of portraits across its front page for September. Tropical Storm, rounding into shape for the big ones, since that is the trademark of Ralph Baldwin-trained youngsters, was fresh off a smashing upset win in the $147,000 Empire Trot and looked as good as coal in the bin at that stage of the campaign. And Pershing, growing as tough and as wily as the general for whom he was named, was easily the class in the Hoosier Futurity at Indianapolis, scurrying to victories in 158-3 and 158 flat, serving notice that he, too, was a serious contender for the trotting crown in wild, woolly, and wonderful '76. By September 4, when all 5 of our cover boys, plus 13 other pretenders to the throne, had gathered at Quoin, Illinois for the 51st edition of the Hambletonian stake, the situation was just about as clear as sludge, as hard and fast as your average marshmallow. And the Hambletonian, worth an awesome record $263,000 in 1976, was, as always, the glittering scalp that every horse and horseman hankered to add to his collection. It was, it is, and will be the race of races, the stake of stakes, the happening of all happenings. Who would win the DeCoin Classic? Hoofbeats could not have told you. Neither could the magazine's editor. And neither, to be sure, could the genial gentleman who would be handling the elegant 18 entries in the prime test.
I don't believe there's that much difference between any of them in the field.
Predicting a winner would be very difficult.
I would have to give the filly a little shot in there, Andre Regina.
I think the horse that'll win will be the horse that has the brakes all the way.
I think there's at least 8 or 9 horses, any one of them could win.
I wish I could tell you, but I don't believe I can.
As you know, the last 8 races, stake races, there's been a different 3-year-old trotter win every week somewhere differently. So therefore, I think it's quite open. I don't think there's any one trotter. I think that what'll depend on mostly if whatever horse is real sharp today, good, and gets the lucky break, I think he may be the winner.
Well, of the 18, I think there's 10 that have a real good chance, and there might be one come out of the other 8 that could win it, so it's wide open.
You've got to give Pershing a shot. You've got to give all the generals a shot.
The consensus was, of course, that there was no consensus at all. And a trip to the Hambletonian's young Mohammed proved fruitless, since Bill Hayes was either a diplomat of the first order or as thoroughly perplexed as everyone else at the sun-baked fairgrounds. Who's going to win the Hambletonian, Bill?
No, you won't trap me on that one, but I can't wait to find out.
But there was one sure way to determine a Hambletonian winner, and that was to race the Hambletonian. Mr. Birdstein, if you will.
All 18 colts on gate as the gate picks up speed here in the first heat of the Hambletonian. And here they come, 18 strong. Beautiful start. And trotting, driving out on the outside is Peridot Pride after the lead. Daring Pride moves right with him. Zoot Suit is third down along the rail. Peridot Pride takes the lead. Daring Pride second on the outside. Zoot Suit third. Lola's Express is fourth on the inside. Vintage Year is fifth on the outside. Racing up sixth is White Knight. In the seventh along the inside is Quick Pay as they move to the quarter-mile mark. Racing in eighth is Closed Circuit. Umbra Regina is ninth along the inside. Peridot Pride leads the way past the quarter-mile mark. 28 and 3/5 seconds, a fast pace. Vintage Year is up on the outside second. Daring Pride is third down along the inside, and White Knight is trotting fourth. Zoot Suit is racing fifth. Closed Circuit is sixth. Lola's Express seventh. Umbra Regina is eighth. Racing in ninth along the inside is Quick Pay. Steve Lobell is 10th on the outside. In 11th, it's Sharp Steel as they move to the half-mile mark. That's Peridot Pride leading the way past the half in 58 and 1/5 seconds. A blazing pace here in the first heat of the Hambletonian. Peridot Pride leads the way. Vintage Year is still second on the outside. Daring Pride is third on the inside. White Knight still fourth on the outside. Zoot Suit is fifth. Closed Circuit is sixth. Lola's Express is seventh. As they move around the turn, Pershing is eighth and trotting fast and coming on. Around to the three-quarter-mile mark. Peridot Pride has the lead. It's Peridot Pride leading the way. Down along the inside, Daring Pride. Pershing is coming on now as they turn for home. Steve Lobell on the extreme outside, trotting fast. Here comes Pershing, mounting his charge on the outside with Steve Lobell. Peridot Pride down along the inside. Daring Pride between horses. On the outside, coming on is Steve Lobell. He's off stride. It's now Pershing driving with Daring Pride. Zoot Suit is coming on. As they come to the wire, Daring Pride. Zoot Suit is getting up. It is Zoot Suit as they come to the wire. And it's Zoot Suit. Daring Pride looks like Pershing here in the first heat of the Hambletonian. The mile in 1 minute 58 and 1/5 seconds. And we have a great classic underway.
Zoot Suit? Like in peg pants and long watch chains? Zoot Suit to be sure. A son of Neverly Pride and Glad Rags, driven to victory by Vernon Dancer to the Clearview stables of Connecticut, edging Daring Pride and Pershing in the first heat of the Hambletonian. Where had he been, this trotter named Zoot Suit? Indeed, to the winner's circle only once on the season before starting at the Quoin. But more importantly, where was he going? To the paddock for a rest, certainly, but possibly on to immortality if he could win another heat of the famed stake. For a pair of heats must be won before the crown and the big cash can descend upon a trotter. But Zoot Suit was not to win the second heat. That pleasure, that honor, would fall to a horse who had lost a shoe in the first dash and would suffer a slashed leg in another.
They're off and trotting. Tropical Storm on the outside. Peridot Pride is off stride. Tropical Storm going after the lead. Daring Pride gets the lead down along the inside. Quick Pay second. Tropical Storm is third. Zoot Suit is fourth down along the inside. Pershing is fifth on the outside. Racing sixth is Seafood Omoette. In seventh is Closed Circuit. Vintage Year is eighth on the inside. Racing in ninth is Aladdin Hill on the outside as they go to the quarter-mile mark. Driving goes Quick Pay to get the lead past the quarter in 28 seconds flat. Tropical Storm on the outside is second, racing third, Daring Pride. Tropical Storm thundering.
The second heat would become the property of Steve Lobell with a world record matching 1:56 and 2 mile. and with Armbro Regina second and Quick Pay third. While the second match on the hot afternoon resulted in a happy decision for the Billy Haughton steered son of Speedy Count, it resulted in tragedy for another great horse in the field. Neville Thunder, the first of the prospective champions to have their likenesses on the cover of the mythical Hoofbeats editions, had broken a bone in his left front leg and would have to call it a day, a season, and a career. The U.S. Trotting Association's camera, following the field every step of the way, permits the viewer to witness the precise instant that Thunder takes the tragic step that ends his racing life and sends him on to a stallion career at Pine Hollow Stud Farm in New York.
Outside, 127 for 3/4, and it's Lola's Express thundering up now after the lead. Down along the inside, coming up now is Lola's Express and Quick Pay as they drive down through the lane, and Steve Lobell coming down through the lane, leading the way. That's Steve Lobell. Steve Lobell draws outside 3, and it's Steve Lobell, Armbro Regina up on the outside, and Quick Pay in a photo for third with Pershing. The Hambletonian goes to a third heat as Steve Lobell wins in 1:56 and 2, equaling the record.
Irony of ironies, it marked the second year in a row that Stanley Dancer had lost a magnificent trotter at the peak of the season. In 1975, Bonefish had preened in victory lane after a heroic victory in the Hambletonian, then ruptured a blood vessel in his throat the next time he went to post in a race at Detroit. Now Neville Thunder, like Bonefish before him, would compete no more. Stanley Dancer, too, was through, but only for the day. Zoot Suit from his stable was still in strong contention, but Stanley was not about to grab the lines from brother Vernon. Vernon Dancer had started the afternoon as Zoot Suit's driver. Vernon Dancer would finish the afternoon as Zoot Suit's driver. With 15 sound and healthy survivors of the second Hambletonian dash enjoying some rest and recuperation, Maestro Bill Hayes and his DuQuoin denizens were not about to permit the near-record crowd to become bored. During the rare quiet moments on the track, the show shifted to the infield lake, and quite a show it was. In fact, everything that occurred at DuQuoin during its brief race meeting was quite a show. Folks who had arrived on Friday had been treated to a look at the Cinderella horse of the year, maybe the Cinderella horse of all years, the lean and lanky laureate of the 2-year-old trotting class, Jodevin. Jodevin, disposing of his rivals in the Castleton Farm stake, was picking up his 18th and 19th wins on the season and taking another giant step toward freshman trotting laurels on the year. Joe O Brien drives. And how does a small-scale trainer like Kermit Hinshaw, a little guy in the sport, come by a colt like Jodevin, the first 2-year-old trotter to shade 2 minutes in the past 5 years?
I understand that he'd been through the Yonkers sale for $5,700, and the lady that purchased him had been advised that doubtful he'd stay sound, so she disposed of him here at the Liberty Bell sale, and that was our good fortune. And I was looking for a good trotting yearling that I could afford, and Diane was a favorite of mine, and this colt came into the ring, and I thought maybe I'd go to 2,000 or a little better on him, and I got him for 900.
Hope continues to spring at the eternal in harness racing because of horses like Jodevin and horsemen like Kermit Hinshaws, who drove his colt in all but his DuQuoin starts. But that was Friday at DuQuoin. Now we're back to Saturday and the business at hand. the business of settling the 1976 Hambletonian stake. A third heat. Would there be a third winner, sending the classic into a fourth heat for the second year in a row? Indeed there would. Number 1 is Zoot Suit with Vernon Dancer driving. Number 2 is Vintage Year with Glenn Garnsey up. 2A is Peridot Pride with Haughton Vollmer. Number 3 is Steve Lobell with Bill Haughton in the sulky. 3A is Quick Pay, Peter Haughton steers. 4A is Armbro Regina with Joe O Brien handling the reins. The 5-horse is Lola's Express with Bruce Nichols driving. Number 6 is Persian with Bill Herman up. Number 7, Soothsayer, Del Miller drives. 8 is Aladdin Hill with John Simpson Jr. The 9-horse Tropical Storm with Ralph Baldwin in the sulky. 10 is Closed Circuit with driver Frank O'Mara. Number 11, Seafood Omoet with John Gautier in the sulky. 12 is Daring Pride for Howard Beisinger. 13 in the field is Sharp Steel with Jerry Graham driving. Scratched from the third heat, in addition to the injured Nuttally Thunder, were White Knight and Chompers.
And trotting, driving out his Zoot Suit after the lead, Vintage Year, Quick Pay down along the inside, and Pershing between horses. Quick Pay gets the lead, Pershing is second. Armbro Regina third, Vintage Year is fourth, and driving up on the outside, Zoot Suit is fifth. Lola's Express sixth, Tropical Storm is seventh, Steve Lobell is eighth along the rail, Closed Circuit is ninth. Soothsayer is 10th, Daring Pride is 11th, Seafood Omoet is 12th as they go to the backstretch. Racing in 13th is Aladdin Hill after a quarter of a mile, and Sharp Steel in 14th, and Peridot Pride is 15th and last. First quarter in 27 and 3/5 seconds. Quick Pay leads the way down the backstretch. Racing in second is Pershing. Up on the outside, Vintage Year is third. Racing fourth as they go down the backstretch is Armbro Regina. And moving up fifth on the outside goes Lola's Express as they head to the half-mile mark. Quick Pay leads the way into the half. Vintage Year is second, parked on the outside at the half-mile mark. Racing third is Pershing, the half in 57 seconds. Over to the far turn, Quick Pay is still the leader by a length. Pershing is right there in second on the inside, Vintage Year third, Armbro Regina fourth, Lola's Express is fifth. Zoot Suit is racing sixth along the rail, Tropical Storm moves up seventh, and in eighth as they come around the turn is Daring Pride. They move to the three-quarters, and Quick Pay has opened 3.5 lengths on the field. It is Quick Pay with Pershing second, and here comes Armbro Regina out of third and driving on the outside, and Steve Lobell moves from sixth to the extreme outside as they head into the stretch. Quick Pay is the leader. Armbro Regina, Steve Lobell on the extreme outside. Quick Pay is under a drive by young Peter Haughton. Steve Lobell up on the outside. Armbro Regina in the middle of the track as they come down through the lane. Armbro Regina has the lead. Steve Lobell is closing on her on the outside, and Zoot Suit coming on. It is Armbro Regina showing the way. Zoot Suit coming through.
Armbro Regina, Zoot Suit, and Quick Pay in that order. Time of the mile, a withering 1:56 and 3. Good enough to give the winner the all-time standard for trotting fillies. And what was a nice girl like Armbro Regina doing in a place like that, the Hambletonian field? Obviously, she belonged, that's what. And so, perhaps, did another pair of young trotting ladies, Ima Lula and Joppa. Lula, Joppa, and 7 other fleet sophomore ladies had been fighting it out in the $60,000 Hambletonian filly division on the same sizzling Quoin card. The first division went to Ima Lulu in 1:57 and 4. The second to Joppa in 1:56 and 3, throwing the contest into a 2-horse overtime. Excuse the pun, but did you ever see a horse fly? Well, this may be as close as you'll come as the 2 super cuties round the final bend and claw their way home. The last quarter in 27 and 1, with Ima Lulu perhaps trotting the final panel in 26 and a fraction to overtake and pass her rival. It was easily a fresh new standard for 3 heats by trotting girls. The heats were records at the time, too. But that's the kind of afternoon it was in Quoin, Illinois, on September 4, 1976. One last major event remained on the afternoon's agenda, and it was a whopper. The concluding dash of the Hambletonian. Showdown time for the 3 heat winners, Zoot Suit, Steve Lobell, and Armbro Regina. In another classic irony which seemed to haunt classic races, Bill Haughton had wanted to scratch Steve Lobell from the race-off. His trotter, nursing an injured leg and feeling the effects of the long and fierce competition, had just about had enough for the day, Haughton felt. But the Hambletonian has always been a test of stamina as well as speed, and the rule said a colt must continue if he were to collect his share of the purse, win, lose, or draw in the race-off. So Haughton and the colt's owners, the Mill Island stable, decided to start him.
Here they come in the final heat of the Hambletonian. They're off and trotting, driving out on the inside, Armbro Regina. On the outside, Steve Lobell and Zoot Suit.
The early going was typical of a race-off. A bit of jockeying for position, then a great deal of standing pat. Approaching the last turn, the race was finally on, and the price of trotting suddenly soared.
And they come to the three-quarters, Armbro Regina along the inside, Zoot Suit on the outside, and Steve Lobell now comes to the extreme outside for the drive. Three-quarters in 134 and 4. The filly and the two colts battling it out. Armbro Regina on the inside, Zoot Suit between horses, Steve Lobell on the outside, and a great final charge here in the Hambletonian. Armbro Regina on the inside, then Zoot Suit and Steve Lobell on the outside. It's Armbro Regina on the outside, Steve Lobell is getting up. It's Steve Lobell on the outside winning the Hambletonian. A mile and 2:02 and 3/5. Steve Lobell up on the outside for Bill Haughton.
While he may have been injured, may have been weary, Steve Lobell was the winner of the 1976 Hambletonian. Zoot Suit was the runner-up, earning that perch when Armbro Regina was found guilty of drifting out in the stretch. The 2:02 and 3 timing, complete with a concluding quarter in 27 and 4, was the frosting on a 4-heat cake that shattered the old mark for 4 heats divided by trotters of any age. Steve Lobell, a son of Speedy Count and Sophia Hanover, bred by Don Millar's Bonnie Keek Farm in Ohio, was the center of attention in Victory Lane, while Haywood Hale Brune and Stan Bergstein interviewed driver Haughton for the nationwide CBS telecast. And Steve Lobell was the center of attention hours later, too, when he collapsed in his stall and may have lost his life, but for prompt and devoted action by a flood of Haughton aides and other volunteers. The incident would touch off a storm of controversy. Should stake races like the Hambletonian be changed to 1 or 2 heat affairs? Or should harness racing's heritage, its tradition of combining endurance with speed, be preserved? The controversy would swirl for days, for weeks, for months, but it could not, it would not, and it did not tarnish the magnificent competition. The 1976 edition of the Hambletonian Stake would go down in the book as one of the greatest of them all.